God says, "My child, come closer because what happened last night was not hidden from me, even though it was hidden from the world." While you were wondering why everything had become so quiet, while your heart kept asking whether the promise I placed inside you had been forgotten, heaven was watching a moment that changed far more than you realize. You believed silence meant distance, but I tell you that silence often becomes the place where truth can no longer hide. Last night your soulmate reached a place where pretending became heavier than honesty. The smile they had been wearing before other people felt like chains around their soul. Every conversation that sounded perfect to everyone else echoed empty inside them. They tried to convince themselves they could keep living a life that looked peaceful from the outside while their heart quietly cried for something it could never replace. My child, I heard every word they refused to speak aloud. I counted every tear they quickly wiped away before anyone could notice. I understood every breath they took while wondering why their spirit refused to settle. What nobody around them understood was that I had already begun stirring their heart long before this night arrived. They thought they were hiding the truth from people, but they could never hide it from me. There comes a moment when every soul reaches the place where pretending becomes impossible because my light keeps exposing what darkness wants to cover. That moment arrived last night. A confession escaped their heart, not because someone forced them to speak, but because my spirit would no longer allow them to live divided between appearance and truth. My beloved child, this confession was never meant to shame anyone. It was meant to begin healing. Healing always begins where honesty is finally welcomed. Before restoration comes revelation. Before peace comes surrender. Before love is restored, hidden fear must lose its power. This is why heaven seemed unusually quiet yesterday. Angels were not absent. They were waiting for the perfect moment that I had already written long before either of you understood my plan. You have wondered whether I still remember the prayers you whispered through lonely nights. You have wondered whether your tears disappeared into empty air. Listen carefully because I have never forgotten even one of them. Every prayer became a seed planted inside eternity. Every tear became a page in a story that I continue writing with perfect wisdom. Even when nothing around you appeared to change, unseen things were already moving according to my timing. Last night became one of those unseen moments becoming visible. Your soulmate finally admitted something their own heart had been trying to hide. They quietly confessed, "I am pretending with someone who can never truly hold my heart." Those words were not spoken because they hated anyone. They were spoken because they were exhausted from living disconnected from the truth I had placed inside them. My dear child, understand this carefully. Human emotions can become confused. Fear can delay obedience. Pain can convince people to build walls they never intended to keep forever. But my voice continues speaking beneath every layer of fear until the truth becomes impossible to ignore. That is exactly what happened. Their confession did not surprise heaven because I had already seen it before the foundations of time. What surprised them was how impossible it had become to continue pretending after I began awakening their spirit. They suddenly realized that every forced smile felt heavier than genuine tears. Every comfortable lie felt more painful than one honest conversation. They looked around and recognized that they had surrounded themselves with people who understood their words but never truly understood their soul. Then your name quietly crossed their heart once again. They tried to push the thought away. They reminded themselves of every reason they believed the story had ended. Yet the more they resisted, the stronger the truth became. My child, this is how my purpose often works. What I have written cannot remain buried forever. People may delay my timing through fear, but they cannot permanently erase my purpose. I know you have questioned whether you should simply let everything go forever. I know you have fought the temptation to believe that hope itself was foolish. Yet I ask you not to confuse delay with denial. There are seasons when I allow silence because roots grow deeper beneath the surface than branches ever reveal above it. You only see what happens above the ground. I see everything growing underneath. Last night was one of those hidden roots finally breaking through the soil. The confession was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new chapter neither of you could have entered without honesty. Beloved one, never believe that I waste pain. I transform it. Never believe that I ignore broken hearts. I gently rebuild them. Never believe that your waiting has been meaningless. Waiting has prepared both of you in ways you still cannot fully understand. While you were learning endurance, your soulmate was learning truth. While you were learning surrender, they were learning courage. While you were asking me for answers, I was preparing hearts for transformation instead of temporary comfort. This is why you must continue trusting me even when your eyes cannot yet see everything my hands are doing. There are conversations still taking place beyond your awareness. There are chains quietly falling that nobody else can hear. There are decisions forming inside hearts before they are ever spoken aloud. Last night's confession was only the first ripple. The deeper wave has not yet reached the shore, but it is already moving. When it arrives, you will understand why I asked you to remain faithful during the silence instead of running toward despair. My child, hold your heart close to mine because I am not leading you into confusion. I am leading you toward peace that is built upon truth instead of illusion. What begins with honesty can eventually become restoration when it is surrendered completely into my hands. So do not allow fear to write tomorrow's story before I do. Lift your eyes toward me. Trust my wisdom above your emotions. Rest inside my promises even when the path still seems mysterious, because I am the author who never abandons what my love has already begun. My beloved child, after those words were spoken, the room became quieter than anyone expected. No thunder echoed across the sky, no dramatic sign appeared before human eyes, yet heaven recognized that something eternal had shifted. There are moments that the world calls ordinary but that angels remember forever because a heart finally chooses truth over fear. Last night was one of those moments. Your soulmate sat in silence after the confession, wondering whether anyone would ever understand what had been living inside them for so long. They questioned whether honesty had arrived too late. They feared they had already damaged every bridge that once connected them to the future I intended. But while those questions filled their mind, my peace quietly entered the room. I reminded them that I am not the God of impossible endings but the God of impossible restorations. My child, there are people who believe a mistake has the final word, yet my mercy continues writing long after human hope has reached its limit. This is why I ask you not to judge the story by yesterday's chapter. I have seen every page before either of you turned the first one. I know the places where sorrow appeared stronger than joy. I know the moments when both of you almost surrendered to disappointment. Yet I also know the ending that my hands continue shaping with patience, wisdom, and unfailing love. Your soulmate could not ignore my whisper any longer because every distraction had begun losing its power. The conversations that once entertained them suddenly felt empty. The places that once offered temporary comfort no longer satisfied their spirit. They realized that pretending had become a prison built from fear instead of peace. They looked into the future they had been trying to accept and discovered that something essential was missing. It was not success. It was not recognition. It was not security. It was truth. And truth cannot remain hidden forever when my spirit continues knocking at the door of the human heart. Beloved one, I know you have carried your own hidden questions. You have asked whether you somehow caused this distance. You have replayed old conversations, wondering whether different words might have changed everything. Release those heavy burdens into my hands today. Do not become a prisoner of endless what-ifs. I never asked you to carry yesterday forever. I asked you to trust me with tomorrow. There is freedom waiting for the heart that finally places every unanswered question before me instead of carrying it alone. I see how deeply you have longed for clarity. I have watched you searching for signs in quiet moments, hoping that one small confirmation would remind you I am still working. My dear child, let this truth become that confirmation. Even when you cannot hear my voice with your physical ears, I continue moving circumstances into perfect alignment. I soften hearts. I remove deception. I expose hidden motives. I prepare conversations before they ever happen. Nothing escapes my attention. Every detail rests safely inside my wisdom. Last night's confession was not born from sudden emotion alone. It was the result of countless unseen moments when I patiently invited your soulmate to stop running from what their own spirit already knew. I never force love, but I gently call people toward honesty because honesty creates room for healing. As they reflected on everything they had been pretending to protect, they realized fear had stolen more peace than truth ever could. That realization shook them deeply. They understood that appearances could impress people for a season, but appearances could never comfort a restless soul. They began asking themselves questions they had avoided for far too long. Why did thoughts of you continue returning without invitation? Why did memories refuse to disappear? Why did my peace seem closer whenever they surrendered instead of pretending? Those questions did not come by accident. I allowed them because I wanted them to look beyond outward circumstances and discover what had been quietly growing beneath the surface. My child, sometimes I remove every distraction until the only voice left is mine. That process may feel uncomfortable, but it is always filled with purpose. I never remove false foundations without preparing something stronger to stand in their place. This is why I ask you to remain steady. Do not rush ahead of my timing because waiting with me is never wasted. Every day of faithful patience strengthens the foundation I am building beneath your future. One day you will look back and realize that the delays you feared were actually protecting blessings you were not yet ready to receive. Your soulmate is beginning to understand this as well. They are recognizing that my plans require surrender, not performance. They are learning that genuine love cannot be sustained by pretending, because love rooted in truth grows stronger with every season. Even now I continue speaking gently to their heart. I remind them that courage is not the absence of fear but the willingness to obey despite fear. Every step toward honesty becomes another step away from the prison they once believed they could never escape. Heaven rejoices whenever a heart chooses light over hiding. That joy is greater than human eyes can fully imagine. And my child, while you wait, continue allowing my peace to guard your own heart. Refuse bitterness. Refuse hopelessness. Refuse the temptation to believe that silence means abandonment. I have remained beside you through every unanswered prayer, every lonely evening, every uncertain sunrise. I have never stepped away from your side. The same hands that carried you yesterday are carrying you today, and they will faithfully lead you into tomorrow. Trust me a little longer. Hold on a little tighter to my promises. What has begun in hidden places is still unfolding, and the story is moving toward a future shaped not by fear, but by my everlasting love, my perfect timing, and my unchanging faithfulness. My dear child, as dawn quietly approached after that unforgettable night, your soulmate realized they could no longer return to the version of themselves they had been living before the confession. Something within them had awakened, and once my light begins illuminating a heart, darkness can never feel comfortable again. They tried to distract themselves with ordinary routines, hoping the emotions would fade with the sunrise, but the peace they expected never arrived. Instead, my gentle voice continued speaking beneath every thought, reminding them that truth is not a burden meant to destroy them but a doorway leading them toward freedom. They began remembering moments they had tried to forget, conversations they had dismissed too quickly, and quiet memories where your presence had brought a peace they could never explain. Those memories did not return by accident. I allowed them because I wanted them to understand that I have never stopped working behind the scenes. My child, there are seasons when I seem silent, but my silence is never inactivity. While you believed nothing was changing, I was carefully arranging circumstances neither of you could control. I was closing doors that would have led to greater sorrow. I was protecting futures that had not yet become visible. I was teaching lessons that could only be learned through waiting. Many times you asked why the path felt so confusing. You wondered why my answers seemed delayed. Yet if you had seen everything I was shielding you from, your heart would have thanked me instead of questioning me. Trust grows strongest when it survives uncertainty. That is why I have been strengthening your faith instead of simply satisfying your curiosity. Your soulmate is beginning to understand this same lesson. They now recognize that every attempt to ignore my direction only created deeper emptiness inside them. They searched for comfort in places that could only provide temporary relief. They hoped distractions would silence the longing within their soul, yet every distraction eventually faded, leaving them face to face with the truth once again. Beloved one, I created every heart with a purpose that cannot be replaced by imitation. When people choose appearances instead of authenticity, their spirit quietly becomes restless because they are living outside the design I lovingly created for them. Last night revealed that restlessness. Today begins revealing the path toward healing. Do not imagine that transformation happens all at once. I often restore lives one faithful step at a time. First comes honesty. Then surrender. Then healing. Then wisdom. Finally comes peace that remains even when circumstances are still unfolding. Your soulmate has entered that journey. They may still have questions. They may still wrestle with fear. Yet they can no longer pretend they do not hear my voice. Every sunrise will remind them of the confession that changed everything. Every quiet evening will invite them to consider the future I continue preparing. And through every moment, my spirit will gently lead them closer to the courage they once believed they lacked. My beloved child, while I work within their heart, do not neglect the work I am doing within yours. Continue becoming the person I have called you to be. Continue choosing forgiveness instead of resentment. Continue choosing faith instead of anxiety. The enemy wants you to believe your waiting has stolen precious time, but I tell you that nothing surrendered into my hands is ever wasted. Even your tears have become seeds for tomorrow's joy. Even your disappointments have been transformed into wisdom that will strengthen the love I am preparing. One day you will realize that every difficult season shaped your heart into someone capable of receiving blessings with humility instead of fear. I know there were nights when you almost stopped believing my promises. I know there were mornings when hope felt too fragile to hold. Yet still you kept walking. Still you kept praying. Still you kept looking toward heaven, even when your answers had not yet arrived. I saw every act of quiet faithfulness, and I have treasured each one. Nothing done in faith escapes my notice. Heaven remembers what the world overlooks. The smallest prayer whispered through tears carries great value before my throne. That is why I ask you today not to become discouraged by what remains unseen. There are conversations approaching that neither of you expect. There are hearts softening even now. There are burdens beginning to fall that have been carried for far too long. My timing is never rushed, yet it is never late. When I open a door, no fear can permanently close it. When I restore what has been broken, the testimony becomes stronger than the pain that came before it. So keep your eyes on me instead of on uncertainty. Let my peace become stronger than your questions. Let my promises become louder than your fears. Remember that I am the shepherd who never loses sight of even one beloved sheep. I know exactly where you are. I know exactly where your soulmate is. And I know exactly how to lead both of you through every valley until my purpose stands complete. Therefore, rest tonight with confidence instead of worry. Lay every burden at my feet before you close your eyes. Allow my presence to surround your heart with peace that the world cannot understand. The story has not reached its conclusion. It is still unfolding beneath my faithful hands, and every step I guide will continue revealing that my love is stronger than fear, my truth is greater than every disguise, and my plans for your future remain filled with hope, restoration, and everlasting peace. My beloved child, before you allow your thoughts to race ahead of my timing, listen carefully to what I am about to reveal, because this truth will steady your heart. The confession that was spoken last night did not disappear when the conversation ended. Words spoken from the deepest places of the soul continue echoing long after the room becomes silent. Your soulmate tried to convince themselves that perhaps they had shared too much, that maybe they should return to the familiar comfort of pretending. Fear whispered that honesty would only complicate everything. But my spirit whispered something greater. I reminded them that peace can never grow where truth is constantly buried. Every time they attempted to return to the old version of themselves, they felt an emptiness they had never noticed before. What once seemed normal suddenly felt unfamiliar. What once appeared safe now felt like a cage. This is how my light works within a willing heart. Once I awaken a soul to truth, I gently lead it away from every false foundation until only what is genuine remains. My child, I know you have wondered whether your prayers have truly reached me. You have asked in quiet moments if I still remember the promises you believed I placed within your spirit. Hear me now with complete confidence. I have never forgotten a single promise. I have never misplaced a single prayer. Every hope you surrendered to me has remained safely in my hands. Even when months passed without visible change, I continued working in ways your human eyes could not recognize. There were conversations I prevented before they ever happened. There were decisions I redirected without anyone realizing my hand was present. There were moments when disappointment protected you from heartbreak you never needed to experience. One day you will understand that many unanswered prayers were actually hidden acts of my mercy. Your soulmate is beginning to see this as well. They are looking back over their own journey and recognizing patterns they never noticed before. They see how every attempt to force a future apart from my peace left them feeling restless. They understand that every path built upon fear eventually led them into deeper confusion. Yet every quiet moment when they honestly sought my direction filled them with a peace that no circumstance could imitate. That realization has become impossible for them to ignore. They are discovering that my guidance does not condemn, it restores. It does not shame, it heals. It does not destroy hope, it gives hope new life. Beloved one, while these changes continue unfolding, guard your own heart with patience. Do not become consumed by trying to predict every detail of tomorrow. You are not called to carry the weight of the future. That responsibility belongs to me alone. Your calling is to remain faithful today. Continue speaking with kindness. Continue choosing forgiveness. Continue trusting my wisdom above your own understanding. Every act of faith strengthens your spirit even when you cannot immediately see the results. I am shaping your character as carefully as I am shaping your circumstances. Those two works always happen together. If I prepared only your future without preparing your heart, the blessing itself could become overwhelming. That is why I lovingly develop both at the same time. My dear child, there will soon come a moment when your soulmate realizes that fear has stolen enough of their life already. They will recognize that hiding from truth has cost more than embracing it ever could. That awakening will not happen because of pressure from people. It will happen because my love continues patiently inviting them into freedom. My love never forces the door open. It simply keeps knocking until the heart willingly responds. Heaven celebrates every small step they take toward honesty because each step brings them closer to the purpose I designed before either of you were born. Remember, my child, I never write stories filled only with pain. Even the hardest chapters become part of a testimony that reveals my faithfulness. What seems delayed today may become the very reason you praise me tomorrow. The waiting has not been empty. The silence has not been meaningless. The tears have not been forgotten. I have gathered every one of them with compassion. I have transformed every moment of endurance into strength that will sustain you in the days ahead. Therefore, refuse to surrender your hope. Refuse to believe that what looks unfinished is abandoned. I am still writing. I am still restoring. I am still leading both of you one faithful step at a time. Keep your eyes lifted toward me, because the same God who watched over you through every lonely night is preparing to reveal that my plans have always been greater than your fears, my timing has always been wiser than your understanding, and my love has been carrying you toward a future filled with peace, healing, and a hope that will never disappoint. My dear child, there is another truth I want you to carry gently within your heart today. Do not assume that because you cannot yet see the complete picture, I have stopped painting it. Some of my greatest works remain hidden until the exact moment they are ready to be revealed. Just as the dawn quietly replaces the darkness without asking permission from the night, my purpose continues advancing even when human eyes cannot detect its movement. Your soulmate has entered a season where every quiet moment reminds them of the confession they tried so hard to avoid. They wake up thinking they can simply move forward as though nothing happened, yet my spirit lovingly brings them back to the truth they finally acknowledged. The words they spoke were not merely sentences. They were the beginning of a transformation. Once honesty takes root inside a willing heart, it begins growing in ways that cannot be reversed. My child, I know you have experienced moments when you almost convinced yourself that letting go of every promise would be easier than continuing to hope. I saw those moments. I understood the weariness behind your prayers. Yet even when your faith felt small, my faithfulness remained limitless. I never measured your future by the strength of your emotions. I measured it by the certainty of my promises. That is why I never abandoned the work I began. Even while you rested, I continued arranging details. Even while you questioned me, I continued protecting you. Even while doors seemed closed, I was preparing a better path that neither disappointment nor fear could destroy. Beloved one, your soulmate is beginning to notice the difference between temporary happiness and lasting peace. For a long time they confused the two. They believed that if everything looked right from the outside, eventually their heart would agree. But peace cannot be manufactured through appearances. It is born from alignment with my truth. Every attempt to silence the longing within them only caused it to grow stronger. They discovered that the more they pretended, the more exhausted they became. Their soul was asking for authenticity while fear kept offering excuses. Finally, the excuses became too heavy to carry. That is why the confession shook them so deeply. It was not because they suddenly learned something new. It was because they finally admitted what they had quietly known for a long time. My beloved child, there are moments when people believe they are running from another person, but in reality they are running from the truth I have gently placed within their own spirit. Eventually, every path leads them back to the question they have been avoiding. That question has now become impossible for your soulmate to ignore. They are asking themselves what kind of future can truly survive if it is built upon pretending. They are asking whether fear deserves another year of their life. They are asking why my peace continues calling them toward honesty instead of comfort. Those questions are sacred because they open the door for my wisdom to enter. While they seek those answers, remain anchored in my presence. Do not allow impatience to steal the peace I have already given you. You are not behind. You are exactly where my grace can reach you most deeply. Continue allowing me to heal every hidden wound inside your own heart. I do not want you entering your future still carrying yesterday's pain. I want you entering it with freedom, compassion, humility, and unwavering trust. The healing I am accomplishing within you is just as important as the awakening I am accomplishing within your soulmate. One prepares the other. One strengthens the other. Together they become part of a testimony that will point people toward my goodness rather than toward human strength. My child, never underestimate what I can accomplish through one surrendered heart. A single act of honesty can begin changing generations. A single prayer spoken with faith can open doors that seemed permanently closed. A single moment of obedience can redirect an entire future. That is why heaven rejoiced over last night's confession. It was not merely about words. It was about a heart finally choosing light instead of hiding. Continue resting in that assurance. Continue believing that I am working beyond what you can currently see. The days ahead will reveal more than the days behind ever could. Every sunrise brings both of you closer to the moment when my purpose becomes clearer, my peace becomes deeper, and my faithfulness becomes impossible to deny. So place every fear into my hands once again. Let hope rise where worry once lived. Let my promises become the foundation beneath every step you take. I am still guiding you. I am still protecting you. I am still writing a story filled with redemption instead of regret, healing instead of despair, truth instead of pretending, and a future that reflects my perfect love, my perfect wisdom, and my perfect timing. That am why, beloved child, before this message comes to its close, I want you to leave with one final truth that your heart can carry long after these words are finished. Never mistake my silence for my absence. I have been with you through every unanswered question, every lonely night, every tear that no one else noticed, and every prayer whispered when you thought no one was listening. I was there before your pain began. I remained beside you through every moment of waiting, and I will still be holding your hand when this new season fully unfolds. Last night's confession was never the destination. It was the beginning of healing. It was the moment a heart stopped running and started listening. It was the first step away from fear and toward the future I have been preparing all along. Your soulmate is still learning to trust my voice, just as you are learning to trust my timing. Be patient with the process because I never rush what is precious. I shape hearts carefully so that what I restore will remain strong through every season. My child, release every burden you have been carrying. You do not have to force what I have already planned. You do not have to chase what my hand is capable of bringing together. Continue walking in peace. Continue choosing kindness. Continue allowing my love to heal every hidden place inside your heart. The more you trust me, the lighter your spirit will become. The future does not belong to fear. It belongs to the one who holds tomorrow. I am already standing in the days ahead, preparing what you cannot yet see. Every delay has had a purpose. Every closed door has offered protection. Every lesson has strengthened your faith for the blessing that is coming. One day you will look back and realize that I never abandoned you for a single moment. I was quietly arranging every detail with perfect wisdom and unfailing love. So tonight, rest without anxiety. Lay your questions at my feet. Leave your worries in my hands. Sleep knowing that the God who created the stars is also watching over your story. My plans for you are filled with hope, peace, restoration, and lasting joy. I will never stop guiding you, never stop protecting you, and never stop loving you. Keep your eyes on me, my dear child, because the greatest chapter of your testimony is not behind you, it is still ahead. Walk forward with courage, trust my heart even when you cannot see my hand, and remember always that I am making all things beautiful in my perfect time. You are not forgotten. You are deeply loved. You are safely held. And I will faithfully lead you into the future I have prepared for you. Amen.